How can I learn my times tables? Well, that's a great question, and it's one that my 3rd and 4th grade students are asking now as well. So let's learn our multiplication facts. Now, you've probably seen a multiplication chart before. And the chart I'm using begins with tables of 2's and goes all the way to the tables of 10. Now, the numbers that we're going to be multiplying together are highlighted in purple. The orange numbers are special numbers. Those numbers are the square numbers. Square numbers are formed when you multiply a number by itself. For example, 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 3 is 9. The numbers highlighted in green are all the facts that you need to learn. And all the numbers that aren't highlighted represent turnaround facts. For example, if 3 times 4 is 12, then 4 times 3 must also be 12. So 3 times 4 and 4 times 3 are really just the same fact. So once you learn 3 times 4 equals 12, you don't have to then memorize that 4 times 3 also equals 12. You'll know that automatically. So your job is to learn all the facts that are highlighted in orange and all the facts that are highlighted in green. Now let's start with some of the easier facts. I think it's really easy to learn the 2 times table because all you really need to know is how to double numbers. And you probably learned that when you were learning how to add. So 2 times 2 is 4, and that's the same as 2 plus 2. 2 times 3 is 6, and that's the same as 3 plus 3. And 2 times 4 is the same as 4 plus 4, and so on. I also think it's pretty easy to learn the 10 times table because, as you can see, 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3 is 30. All we're doing is putting a 0 after the number we're multiplying by. So 10 times 4 would give us 40, then 50, 60, and so on. So the 2's and the 10's are pretty easy to learn. Now, after you've mastered the 2's and the 10's, you might want to try the 5 times table. You've probably already counted by 5's lots of times, and that's half the battle. Also, you might notice that all the multiples of 5 end in either a 0 or a 5. And I think that will help you learn your 5 times table as well. After my students have learned the 2's, the 5's, and the 10's, we go back and begin working on 3's and 4's. Unfortunately, I don't have a good trick for the 3's. So we practice this table with games and flashcards and try to learn it that way. And then we learn the 4's. What you might notice about the 4's is that all you have to do is double the 2's facts. So double 4 is 8, double 6 is 12, and so on. So if you have a problem to solve like 4 times 6, and you don't know the answer is 24, but you do know that 2 times 6 is 12, you can just double 12, and that'll give you 24. Now, after my students have learned the 3's and 4's, we go on to the 9 times table. And that's because that's a fun one to learn. So let's highlight the 9's. Now, the thing to notice about the 9 times table is that in every multiple of 9, the 2 digits, the 10's digit and the 1's digit, adds up to 9. 1 plus 8 is 9, 2 plus 7 is 9, 3 plus 6 is 9. And that's true for all of the multiples, up to 10. So that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're checking your work. You can just add the digits together and see if they equal 9. If they don't, then you know you probably made a mistake. And so now we have the toughest ones to learn, the 6's, the 7's, and the 8's. But I'm going to show you now that you've already learned most of the facts in the 6's, 7's, and 8's when you learned all the other facts. For example, when you learned your tables of 2, you found that 2 times 6 equals 12. So that means 6 times 2 must also equal 12. So let's highlight that fact. When you learned your 3's, you found that 3 times 6 is 18. That means 6 times 3 must also be 18. When you learned your 4 times table, you found that 4 times 6 equals 24. So that means 6 times 4 must also equal 24. And when you learned your 5 times table, you found that 5 times 6 equals 30. So 6 times 5 must also equal 30. When you learned that 10 times 6 is 60, you were also learning that 6 times 10 is also 60. And if 9 times 6 is 54, then 6 times 9 must also be 54. So you only have 3 facts left to learn in the 6's. Let's see what we can eliminate from the 7's. You learned that 2 times 7 equals 14, so 7 times 2 must also be 14. And you know that 3 times 7 is 21, so 7 times 3 must also be 21. And 4 times 7 is 28, so 7 times 4 is 28. 5 times 7 is 35, so 7 times 5 is also 35. You learned that 10 times 7 is 70, so 7 times 10 must also be 70. And 9 times 7 is 63, so 7 times 9 must also be 63. So we only have 3 facts left to learn in the 7's. And we can do the same thing for the 8's. We already know that 8 times 2 must be 16, and 8 times 3 has to be 24, and 8 times 4 is 32. And 8 times 5 must be 40. From multiplying by 10, you know that 8 times 10 must be 80, and you've learned your 9's, so 8 times 9 must be 72. So now there are only 9 facts left to learn. And there are actually turnaround facts in this group as well. 6 times 7 is 42, so 7 times 6 must also be 42. 6 times 8 is 48, so 8 times 6 is also 48. And 7 times 8 is 56, so 8 times 7 is also 56. And that leaves us with only 3 square numbers to learn. 6 times 6 is 36, 7 times 7 is 49, and 8 times 8 is 64. So learning all your multiplication facts is not as hard as it seems. You just have to be systematic about it and learn your facts in parts. Start with the 2's, the 5's, and the 10's, and then take it from there.